Taking a look at step 5 of our example A3 project, you will notice that the project team has listed all of the root causes from step 4. What you won't see yet is that the project team then discussed potential improvements to each of the root causes, but listed them under step 6 to save space on the A3 form. This might seem a little disconnected when reviewing each step one at a time, but when looking at the A3 form as a whole, the entire picture of the project is available and flows better from section to section. If we take a look at the first cause noted here of no defined standard for restocking, picking and filling, and checking, you will notice that the improvement team came up with 3 separate actions to address this cause. As noted, these are listed under step 6 to save space. Taking a quick look at what is actually documented under step 6 and looking at the first 3 actions we see, the first action of defined standard for restocking, review with all staff involved. The second action of defining a standard for picking and filling and checking, review with all staff involved. And then the third action of put a training plan in place once the new standard operating procedures are defined, then train all applicable associates. Looking back at what was then documented under step 5, you can see that the project team used PACE prioritization to prioritize the efforts of the project team. Improvements 1 through 6 were noted to be a top priority. Improvement 7 ended up falling under action, so was added to the action list as well. Improvement 8 fell on the consider line, but after discussion the project team decided to pursue, but only after the other actions were completed. Improvement 9 fell into the eliminate category, so the team decided not to pursue that idea at that time. Let's now take a look at step 6 of the A3 process, the action plan. Steps 5 and 6 really go hand in hand. In step 5, the specific improvements are identified. In step 6, a project plan is put together for implementation of those improvements. All the work up until this point is the plan phase of PDSA. The deliverable of step 6 is a list of the improvements that will be pursued in the form of an action plan. It is important that every improvement be assigned one person that is responsible for ensuring that action is completed. This person does not necessarily have to do the work themselves, but is responsible for coordinating any activities leading to the completion of that task. It is also important to set a due date for completing the action. The team should come to an agreement on who owns the overall project plan and who will oversee the completion of the plan. This is usually the team leader of the A3 project. As the A3 progresses, use the status column in the A3 form to keep track of the progress of each action. This helps continue to tell a story of the progress of the project and keep the team and related employees up to speed. As a team, decide on how often the team should meet to review the status of the action plan. From there, the team should meet per the defined schedule to report on progress against the target completion dates and to review updated data if available. Taking another look at step 6 of our example A3 project, you will see that each action was assigned an owner, a due date, and the status column regularly used to keep track of the status of each action during implementation. You may also note that several of the actions have revised due dates noted. As actions are implemented, best practice is to stick with the original completion dates. However, even with the best of intentions, completion dates are sometimes missed or need to be delayed. If this does happen, keep the original completion date visible to tell the story of how the project has progressed. If we take a quick look back at steps 4, 5, and 6 of our example project, you can now see how the 3 tie together to tell a story as the problem is analyzed, root causes are determined, and improvement plans are formulated and prioritized, and finally, an action plan is put together to implement the improvements. Let's now move on to step 7 of the A3 process, measure. Step 7 can be associated with the study and act phases of PDSA, where we will determine if the solutions the team has put in place are working or not, and then take action as needed. In most projects, the specific measure or measures that are going to be used to study the impact of improvements will have been decided in step 3 of the process. Step 7 then becomes a check or study if the improvements put in place are working or not. In some cases, the project team may decide to track additional metrics, but be careful to limit the chosen metrics to 1 to 2 and make sure at least one of those metrics directly aligns with the goal of the A3 project. By using the table within the available A3 template, you can indicate the metric or metrics chosen, a baseline measurement, the end goal, and then use the table to track the metrics as improvements are implemented. In this manner, you can actually start to populate step 7 in the A3 form as soon as a goal is chosen for the project, but then use this area to continuously review the status throughout the project. A run chart is also a very effective tool to monitor and visualize the performance of the process as the changes are made. As a team, Make a decision as to how long you will track the chosen metrics to ensure the improvements stick. Best practice is to continue to monitor for at least 90 days after the last improvement is implemented, but in some cases you may want to monitor for an even longer period of time. Use step 7 to then study the impact of the improvements put in place and take action as needed. If the improvements are not having the desired impact, you must go back to step 4 of the A3 process and dig a little deeper to ensure you have found the true root cause of the problem, essentially starting the PDSA cycle over again. If the improvements are having the desired impact, you can move on to the final step of the A3 process, standardize. Taking a look at step 7 of our example A3 project, you will see that the team decided to track the number of monthly Pyxis errors in direct alignment with the project goal. A baseline average was determined using an average number of errors each month for the 6 months prior to the A3 project starting, which calculated to an average of 5.2 errors per month. Most of the actions for this project were completed in November and December, so the project team decided to keep track of the progress through March of the next year. The pharmacy in this case actually continued to monitor the number of errors on a monthly basis even after the project was completed. As you can tell from the numbers shown, great progress was made for January, February, and March, where the process actually met the goal of maintaining less than one Pyxis error per month. Instead of just a regular chart, the team may decide to visualize the data and graph it on a run chart. In this particular project, the team just kept the run chart that was created in step 2 updated throughout the project instead of creating a brand new chart in this phase. As the official close of the project in April, the 3-month average for January, February, and March was 0.7 errors per month, or an 87% decrease from when the project started. Moving on to step 8, we see that step 8 is the final part of ACT in PDSA. If things go according to plan and improvements are made as expected, a project team moves from step 7 to step 8, where we standardize and celebrate. As noted in step 7, if improvements are not going as expected, the team should head back to step 4 and reassess the analysis of the problem to see what was missed. The goal of step 8 is to answer the question, how do we ensure that the improvements are sustained? In the A3 form itself, indicate actions needed to sustain and standardize the improvements that have been made. As a team, review other potential applications to apply what has been learned and then discuss as needed with the stakeholders of those processes. At the end of the project, it is important to share reflections of what have been learned and to celebrate the accomplishments of the team. This can be done in various manners, from the team presenting at a management forum to bringing in lunch for the team to celebrate. Here are a few ideas to help sustain the improvements that were made. Standard work is the key lean tool used to document and share the new and improved process. These documents should be reviewed and updated regularly. Please make sure and review the lean tool standard work after this slide. Train current and new employees using the documented standard work. Perform periodic audits to ensure that new standards are being followed. This is used to confirm that the new process is being followed and that there are no unforeseen or new roadblocks to following the process. It should not be used as a tool to punish employees for not following the process, but rather an exploratory tool to understand if the process is working or not, and if not, what can be done to fix it. On top of the project team performing audits, another great tool is to get leadership involved in the process confirmation. Standard work on key processes can also be incorporated into annual skills assessments and new employee orientation.